Well, I saw Randy Jackson, and all I had was my samurai sword, and I couldn't say no.
Hey,
This is witchcraft.
What do you mean folders? You have stuff
Like on the phone?
Yeah.
You have like...
That's not a good side.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Team Morale Podcast, where we do our three favorite things: talk a little bit of booze, a little bit of beer, and a whole lot of basketball. Ian, the tall guy, back for another banger of a podcast, and we have a very special guest here, returning to the pod, a friend of the pod, Ladies Man Tom, joining us again. We are going to talk some college basketball today, and Ladies Man Tom is the guru for all things college basketball. Welcome.
Thanks, man. Yeah, this is the best week of the year for sports. I'm glad to be here. This is a great little pregame for that, so I'm glad to be here for sure.
Yeah, we love having Tom out because he's kind of he's a bit of our college basketball specialist.
I like to think so.
You like watching college basketball? Is that like your main
More
thing?
than the NBA, which is a hot take, but yeah.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard, and if you haven't heard, you live under a rock, there's this beautiful, glorious thing called March Madness, and it is happening, and it is
So
quickly
close.
approaching, and we are all very excited.
Oh yeah, dude. This is my favorite time of the year. My actual favorite part of the entire tournament is the first weekend.
Yes, 100%.
I love the first
It's the best
weekend,
part,
man.
yeah.
I was thinking about calling in sick if I was gonna, but good thing I'm gonna be on vacation actually for these days.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about calling in sick just because I love sitting down on my couch and just have like constant basketball going all day, and it's all just beautiful upsets and March Madness-ness. I love it, man.
I legit bought a TV last week to like have two going, plus my laptop, so I can watch like all three games at all times next week, just to be like in the zone. So
Every basketball fan has their optimal setup.
yes,
Everyone
it's
has their
starting to work.
optimal food ready to go,
Yeah.
and just the situation needs to be perfect because, again, this is Christmas for basketball fans.
It really is. It does feel like the Christmas season for basketball fans.
Yeah.
I love it. We all got our own teams. Like there's just so many teams and options and people to like be represented. It really is a beautiful thing. It's like the ultimate tournament by having this many teams, and pretty much to get in, you have to be good.
Yeah.
You minimum have to be at least good to get into the tournament.
hot.
Good or hot. Good or hot. Exactly. And so I'm excited. We're gonna talk a little bit of how the March Madness connects to the NBA.
Yeah. On this podcast, we're going to be talking a little bit of NBA busts and boomers, basically, that have done well in the tournament. So guys that have had really good tournament runs that have had great NBA careers, and guys that have had really good tournament runs that have had not so great NBA careers.
It was kind of hard narrowing this list down. We were going over it before, and there is a lot of options. But before we get to that, let's talk about what we're drinking tonight.
Oh, how?
We need to get you a shirt that just says, "But before we do."
But before we do, it's my tagline here.
Mitch merch.
Yeah, Mitch merch. Holy smokes, that's
That's
a
a
$1 million
business
idea right there.
Called Shark Tank right
I
now.
need to call your dad. All right, so what we are drinking here is called The Hef. It's a Hefeweizen ale, and it comes from Frankenmuth Brewery out of none other than Michigan.
Go Blue. My home state.
You're even repping them on your shirt right
I
now.
do. This is a big week for them.
So Tom brought us this beer, and so Tom, talk a little bit about why you brought us this beer, a little your experience with it.
I actually hadn't had it before. I was at Kroger, and I knew that you guys were just starting the podcast. I was trying to find like some unique beers or like things to try the podcast, and you know their logo is a dog with a pipe, and it's called the Hef, and I was like, I love that. That's our kind of energy here at Team Morale. So it's our
That is a wiener dog with a pipe in his mouth.
That's all we need in the world. That's a Team Morale vibe if I've ever heard of one.
It really is. Do you want to know a a history about
Screw
him?
the foam finger. Give me that as our
We're just straight
Dog
just
in a
gonna
pipe.
jack this dog in a pipe. Want to know a little history about your Frankenmuth?
So I know it's in Frankenmuth, and I've like been there when I was like super young. I think it's like the big like Germantown, Michigan. That's like more about my knowledge stops, I would say. So
Well, it is one of the oldest breweries in Michigan history.
Okay.
It was originally created in 1862. It was then sold to a bigger brewing company called Geyer Bros Brewing Company in 1874. They had Geyer Brewing had it for a long time up until the 1990s. And and then they sold it to Frankenmuth, and that's when Frankenmuth turned it into like their own thing. But unfortunately, a tornado came through the downtown area of Frankenmuth and totally destroyed the brewery. And so that's when
a tornado in Michigan.
An F3 tornado on June 21st, 1996 tore through Little Bavaria.
So they're still going now. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. They're still moving. They reopened in June 2003 with a 300-seat, 3-level restaurant. So Frankenmuth Brewing Company is also a restaurant, and they're a bit of a comeback story.
Yeah, man.
Love a good comeback.
They're Cinderella story.
Yeah,
speaking of the times right now.
Cinderella story.
Yeah,
absolutely. They are. So if you're ever in the Frankenmuth area, I can't imagine that many people are in the Frankenmuth area, but go check out the restaurant.
It's a weekend spot if you're in Michigan, listen to the podcast.
Yeah,
go visit Little Bavaria.
Why not? Have yourself a hef.
Have yourself a hef.
You all need a hef sometimes.
The hef.
The hef, yeah.
Of the hef. Have yourself a the hef.
The hef.
Not I'll have for a few weeks ago. It's the hef.
The hef. Yeah, that's a great mascot.
Mitch is fanboying over the mascot.
I am.
Anyways, all right, we're getting off track already. We're going to start with the busts. All right, and I've got 3 names of busts and 3 names of booms. And so the first bust hits near and dear to Tom's heart. Tom is a diehard Duke fan, and our first guy who had a great tournament run and a not so great NBA career, Derek Williams.
Yeah, that was the year. So it was 2011. So Duke had just won the ship, and they were defending their title. They had Nolan Smith, Kyle Singler, the Plumlees, and freshman named Kyrie Irving, who is pretty good now in the NBA. You know, that team was they were the top overall seed in the dance. They had cruised through the first 2, so it was the 2 rounds, and then we run into this friggin' buzzsaw named Derek Williams, who just absolutely I think he had like 30 points, and they were just like hot from 3, and they just ruined Duke's night. And then I thought Duke was a lock for at least the Final Four, but then Derek Williams just denied us of that, and then. He ended up helping his draft stock that night a lot. They ended up losing to Kemba the next round, which is a whole other story that we'll get to later on. But yeah, just a career night for Derek Williams. It made him a lot of money, and it broke my heart. So
it really did. So Derek Williams going into the tournament, Arizona was obviously good. Derek Williams is one of the better players. Yeah, Derek Williams.
They were fine.
Very popular guy in college basketball at the time.
Fancy.
Super athletic, big time dunker. And then pops in March Madness. And he's one of these guys that prototypically is probably a lottery pick. And then he pops in March Madness, and then he goes all the way up to the number 2 spot in the draft with high expectations. You think this guy's going to be an all-star.
So I think it's funny. I think people thought he was going to be what Aaron Gordon is now, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
I think that they were 4 years too early on the Arizona athlete that was going to be sick in the NBA. It was Aaron Gordon, but they were just wrong on that one.
I remember. So what I remember about this time era is that Derek Williams got caught with the label as a tweener. It was is he a 3 or is he a 4? And he's kind of neither. He's not big enough to be a 4. He's not mobile enough to be or a good enough shooter to be a 3.
No.
So it's what really is he? And that was the era of defined positions. Where now it's positionless basketball, and you can have guys like that. It's he's just an athletic freak. Toss him out there, and we'll figure out what to do with him later. A la your Aaron Gordons and Blake Griffins and guys like that. Draymond Greens, where it's they can kind of they're positionless. They can go wherever on the court. And I think that Derek Williams kind of got caught just a few years too early.
Yeah, that could be.
And for whatever reason,
him, which is never a good sign either.
Yes. That being said, he showed up. He was not great in the NBA.
No.
Yeah, he still had a 6-year NBA career. Played for 8 teams.
Are you serious?
Well, the Lakers he played 2 games. So that's a team.
Okay.
Cleveland, he played 25. Miami, he played 25 games. New York, he played 80 games. Sacramento, he played 141 games. And then Minnesota, for 3 seasons, he played 155 games. His career stats were 8.9 points per game, 4 rebounds. I'm trying to see if there's anything else worth noting.
Not really,
30% from 3, 43 from the field. His best season was his second year where he averaged 12 points per game and played in 78 games, started 56 of them. So he had one okay year, but from the number 2 overall pick, huge bust.
That's a bad beat.
Yeah, and as you guys were saying, a tweener, he's alternating because on the side it gives positions between power forward and small forward, which is the definition of what a tweener is. Yeah, it just a subpar career. I mean, again, never averaged more than 25 minutes in a game. Never was only in double digit scoring once, and just kind of sucked. Like, just no ifs, ands, or buts. Sorry, Derek Williams.
I mean, you listen to the teams, and it was like the Knicks and the Kings and like the Cavaliers and like the bad Lakers teams. Like, he just never went to like a good spot. He was on the Heat for a little bit, but like even they couldn't save him. But it was just like a bad. I think that's probably the worst case scenario for like how his career could have turned out as well.
If it matters, he's currently playing in Germany.
Well, he's still doing what he loves. So I guess
he's still playing basketball.
Yeah.
Hey, he's playing basketball professionally. It's better than what I can say.
That's true.
But yeah, he was one of those guys where I think he came out a little bit a couple years earlier than what would have fit his his play style best. I do remember him having like some like personality issues and some like kind of just like couldn't handle the big stage kind of issues, and I think all of that added up to one of it's one of those things that just happens in the NBA where a guy's drafted really high, super high expectations, never really fits, never really develops all that well, kind of gets in his own head and then bounces from one team to the next until people just forget who you are. Because I remember Derek Williams, like he was super fun to watch in college.
He was fun to watch, even when he kicked Duke's ass.
Super
bouncy,
to watch. Super bouncy guy. Yeah, Derek Williams, super explosive guy, super fun guy to watch. Broke a lot of Duke's fans' hearts, but didn't make any noise in the NBA at all. Kind of sucked. Another player not as like obscure, a little bit more mainstream, a little more well known, has a little bit of a cult following. Some might say
he's a cult hero. That's it. He's a cult hero.
Adam Morrison out of Gonzaga. There's a different way to say it.
Tomato,
whatever.
I say Gonzaga.
Well,
the Zags.
So it's Zags. So you would think it's Gonzaga.
Zags. We're going Zags. Adam Morrison out of Gonzaga. All my friends that go to Gonzaga, you can correct me if I'm saying it wrong. Just killed it in the tournament. I mean, just absolutely cooked. Got him to the Sweet 16. Little school out of nowhere made him do pretty well, and but also just could not find his footing in the NBA.
Just for reference, so Adam Morrison, this was in 2006. They made it to the Sweet 16. In the 3 games that they played, Adam Morrison averaged 24.3 points, 5.3 rebounds, 2 assists on 47% from the field, 33% from 3. Like, this dude was booling out here, and also he looked like the goofiest goober out there on the court while he was doing it. Adam Morrison was kind of like, when I first really started watching basketball and paying attention to basketball and like diving into like X's and O's, like really like playing more myself as a kid, and I was watching more. It was right when this Gonzaga surge started to happen, and it didn't start with Adam Morrison. It technically started with John Stockton back in the way back day, but this is when Gonzaga really started making their runs as like, oh, we're a good basketball program.
Era, the Mark Few era.
Exactly, the Mark Few era. And Adam Morrison was the first face of Gonzaga basketball.
Yeah, for sure.
And he was a crazy guy, like very emotional, like clearly wore his heart on his sleeve sort of thing. Yeah. And I remember when he was crying on center court type of thing. It was like he was just like a wild player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just wore his heart on his sleeve, just wild, just like all over the place, kind of unpredictable a little bit. Didn't really hurt his draft stock all that much. He was selected 3rd overall in 2006 by the Bobcats at the time, which are the Charlotte basketball team, so they're the Hornets now. Yeah. But just kind of sucked. I mean, I'm trying to put it nicely, but he struggled. I mean, his rookie year, he played in 78 games and averaged 11.8 points per game, and then he hurt his knee and missed a whole year. Yeah. And then after that, he never averaged more than 4.5 points per game, and was quickly out of Charlotte. Traded from Charlotte the year after he hurt his knee. Spent 2 more years with the Lakers, playing a total of 39 games in 2 years, and then was out of the NBA.
I think he has a ring there for the Lakers. I was gonna say, I think Kobe got him a ring or 2, right?
I was just about to say that. Oh. I was gonna say, how dare we slander NBA champion Adam Morrison? honestly, like he was a guy that got overdrafted. He should never have been in that situation in the first place. For college basketball, he was big and he was nimble. Another guy in that era that would be considered a tweener. Like, is he a 3? Is he a 4? Yeah. He's kind of neither, but kind of both. And he was just overdrafted. He had way too big of a cult following. Everyone was following him almost to like hate on him at the time because he's a goofy looking dude that was really intense, and it was relatively easy to hate. And I think that he kind of got a lot more hate than what maybe he deserved because he was never like an NBA caliber guy in the first place that was drafted too high and put in a bad situation, I think at least.
So he's a 2-time NBA champion.
It's true.
2-time champion.
So he's
back-to-back.
a 2-time champion.
Yeah.
And he was on the all-rookie team in 2006, 2007, which I don't know if that's saying
crashed
much.
and burned real quick.
Yeah. But on this website I'm on, it has like nicknames underneath it, and his is The Stash.
The Stash, yes.
The Stash.
I remember him having like a weirder name. I don't know what else. I don't know why I think that.
The Goober?
That could be.
He's just a goofy looking dude, but yeah.
He had a dirty stash. That's all I remember.
Yeah. For those of you watching on our YouTube channel, we'll put a picture or maybe some highlights up of him. And
he had a real dirty stash.
His mustache is just
iconic.
Just absolutely unbeaten.
Iconically bad, I guess, is more accurate.
Yeah, it's creepy stash, porn stash, whatever you want to call it. It's just not okay.
Well, it's not a real mustache, is what it is. It's a couple of hairs that I believe is glued onto the top of his lip. But yeah, Adam Morrison, another guy that very, very famous in March Madness, and people to this day still know who Adam Morrison is, just because of that crazy run, his antics, and then getting overdrafted and having a rough career. But 2-time NBA champ.
Yeah.
No slander on Adam Morrison's name from me.
He got Kobe's water. That's a big job. He got.
Hey, it's Kobe's secret stuff. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Hey, keep in mind he played 8 games on a championship winning team one year, and then in 31, averaging 7.8 minutes per game.
Yeah.
The next year.
Vital
to the team. They weren't getting there without Adam Morrison.
So what I'm hearing is that Kobe needed Adam Morrison or Shaq to win an NBA championship.
Yeah.
This wasn't Shaq. This was the Kobe Powell.
Yeah, it was the Kobe Powell. Lamar Odom needed him.
The Kobe Morris.
Andrew Bynum needed him.
The Kobe Adam Morrison championships. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, so we got one more bust guy to talk about here, and he might be one of the most iconic, popular, name-recognized college basketball player.
Speaking of cult heroes
of our generation, this guy, a true cult hero. There is only one name that people might say now, or maybe not nowadays, but back in the day, that other than Kobe when they shot stuff, and it was Jimmer, because it was Jimmer range, and that Jimmer Fredette out of BYU had one of the more iconic title runs, one of the more iconic college careers, and one of the least iconic NBA careers. But hey, he's a baller in China.
Dude, Jimmer, I mean, in a way, you can kind of say that this like 3-ball era, obviously Steph is a huge part of this, but another huge part to this era happening that we're watching right now of jacking up threes, Dame putting up shots from as deep as he was, starts with Jimmer.
It does.
Jimmer was putting up 40-footers before anyone else was. That man had the first greenest of green lights that we have ever seen. I mean, I remember watching those tournaments and just like watching him in like normal games, and the shots that he would take.
Fearless. Absolutely fearless.
Wild.
Yep.
Absolutely wild. Tom, what do you remember about Jimmer?
I remember just his senior year. I think I like had his stats. He averaged like 30 points a game, and I remember so he was in the Mountain West, and he was playing at San Diego State, and I had like this weird tie to San Diego State, so I was cheering for them. They were both undefeated, and that was when they had Kawhi. So it was Kawhi and Jimmer like back in the day, and like Jimmer just absolutely fucked up San Diego State. They dropped I think he must have had like 35 points, and I was like, God. Like, they put Kawhi on him, and Kawhi couldn't stop him that day. It was just like one of those things where it was just so like inevitable that he just had exactly what it took to beat San Diego State that day, and just I think they like didn't lose a game their like first game till like March, and they looked unstoppable for so long. You just didn't know if they could ever lose with him. Yeah,
he got BYU all the way to the Sweet 16. Which I can't remember the last time BYU was like that deep in a tournament. Like
also that year too. They would have gone farther, but their second best player, who was like their center, had gotten suspended from the tournament because it was BYU. He had sex with his girlfriend. They're like, "You're out."
I vaguely remember this. I totally forgot about this until you started bringing it up. Yes, Brandon Davies. He had sex and could not play in March Madness, which is wild because all these other players, I'm pretty sure,
just Brandon Davies.
Dabbling.
God, yeah.
We might not have a tournament if that was.
No one would be qualified to play, except for BYU. So this happened in 2011 when they made it to the Sweet 16, and here's what Jimmer's stats were for those 3 games. He averaged 32.7 points. 6 assists and 2.7 rebounds on 41% from the floor, 33% from 3, and 91% from the free throw line. Which 33% from 3, you're like, oh, he must not have been a very good 3-point shooter. It's like, no, he was just shooting it from half court every single time down the floor. Like, the man was doing it all by himself every single night. It was very Steph-like.
It was very Steph-like.
They would just sit there, and the 4 other guys would be like, hey, you gonna shoot it, or you're gonna pass it to me, and then I'm gonna pass it back to you, and then you're gonna shoot it. Like, what are you feeling here this time?
Do you need a screen, or are you good to go?
ISO or screen? What do you want? I'm gonna stand under the hoop and see if you miss or not.
And if you miss, I'm just gonna throw it back out to you and wait again.
But yeah, Jimmer, another one of those guys who absolutely torched it in March Madness, got a huge name for himself, became one of the most popular players in all of basketball at the time, and unfortunately just didn't really live up to the hype. You know, it seems as though Jimmer has a natural skill set to at least be like kind of like what JJ Redick does in the NBA is like, what, you can't stand in the corner and shoot threes and hit them at a good clip. But unfortunately, it never really clicked.
We'll get into like, I think like the pattern we've seen with like all 3 of these guys is that they got drafted by horrible organizations with the Timberwolves, Bobcats, and Kings.
Well,
like,
he was actually drafted by Milwaukee and then traded to the Kings.
Well, so he
started his career
on the
in
Kings.
the Kings. But he played, looks like, 7 years, 2012 to 2019. But he did took a couple year break in there. He was on
Mormon
Phoenix.
Mission? Oh.
He was in Phoenix for a couple of years.
Cheap shot.
Well, he was on the Knicks in 2016, and then he took a break and came back and played 6 games for Phoenix in 2019. But played 171 games for the Kings in his career, 54 for the Pelicans, and then, if you want to count these, 8 for Chicago, 6 for Phoenix, and 2 for New York. Yeah. But he never averaged more than, 7.6 points per game. Never really got minutes, like his highest minutes were his rookie year. He was drafted 10th overall, so still a lottery pick. But, averaged 18 and a half minutes per game. Shot, all right from the field his career. Well, not from the field. 40% for the field for his career, but 37 from 3 is not bad on like a decent clip. I mean, he didn't really do anything other than shoot because he averaged 1 rebound and 1 assist and a turnover. But the guy is a legend in China. 3 70-point games.
Yeah.
He's still playing, and the guy 3 70-point games
Doesn't he
in
average
his
like
career.
40 a game in China?
I was going to say, is anyone interested on hearing his Chinese stats?
I think it's at least 40, right?
So he does not average 40. This season, he is averaging 27 points a game.
What a bum.
27 points a game on 40% from 3 while taking 10 threes a game. Why can't you do that in the NBA?
Is there a difference between the Chinese league and the NBA league?
Wow, I never knew that. His first 3 years in China, though, he averaged 37, 37, and then 37.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just
So he's having an off year right now, is what you're saying.
He actually, it's weird. He had 2 years there in the middle where he did not play in China and then like didn't have as good of stats. But all of his years in China are fairly remarkable. I mean, those first 3 where he's averaging 37 a pop, it's averaging on 41% from 3, 42% from 3, and 42% from 3, all while taking 11, 13, and 12 threes a game. That's what like the man is doing what he was born to do, which is to chuck the ball up and be on a team that lets him chuck the ball up.
He's the Steph Curry of China.
It's
as simple as that. He's the Steph Curry of China. And he's just revolutionizing their game, which is awesome. I mean, honestly, all jokes aside, hats off to you. You didn't make it in the NBA. He didn't give up, and now he's actually, making good money and is going to go in like the Chinese Basketball Hall of Fame. Like he's going to go down as a legend.
Just in China now.
Yeah, I mean, all joking aside, like that's a good league.
That could be
like,
worse.
He's a good. That's also not a bad way to make a living.
No.
The Chinese league is arguably the third best league because most people would say Spain is second, and then I would say that the third is probably a debate between China and Israel. And it's really good for Jimmer that he has been able to make a career and kind of make like a legend of himself in China, kind of do what Stephon Marbury was able to do. But good for him. It really is too bad that he just could not make it work in the NBA for whatever reason. Maybe he's just one of those guys that has to have the ball in his hands and he has to be the center of the offense to be
and on the Kings
clicking.
Start.
Yeah, and not play for the Kings. Playing for the Kings doesn't seem to work out for anybody.
Well, because I'm trying to think of like their bust alone. They had him, Thomas Robinson, Stauskas.
That was kind of their like core three there for a second.
That's tough.
Oof.
Yeah.
Those are high draft picks.
Oh yeah, because that would have been
big
because that was 2011, 12, and 13 were their picks.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is all three of those guys were like big March Madness guys.
Yeah, they were.
All three of those dudes
Stauskas made the Elite Eight, or the championship game. Yeah.
All three of those guys were big March
tough.
Madness guys, and the Kings are like, oh, if they're good in March Madness, they must be good.
So the Kings need to stop watching March Madness. Well, I guess now it's different. I mean, I don't know. They have Fox now. Yeah, I don't know.
They're doing fine.
Are they?
No, but we're going to say they're doing fine. The one last thing I want to say on Jimmer is my only thing is maybe he came to the NBA too early. Everyone's chucking threes nowadays. That wasn't really the case back in, 10 years ago. I mean, the NBA's changed a lot. The Warriors really kind of revolutionized the chucking threes. The Rockets really in like 2015 to starting in 2015, which was when he was kind of like barely hanging on to the league, whereas like maybe if he was a rookie now and he was able to just chuck on a high clip and like just be a guy who can make threes,
he could be a great good stats bad team guy in 2020 for sure.
Oh, for sure, absolutely.
The Stones could definitely use someone just to jack up like 7 threes a game besides Wayne Ellington right now, so he'd have a place in our offense somewhere.
All right, well, that wraps up our busts. We're going to take a break here and talk a little bit about the Hef again. We're going to revisit this wiener dog with a pipe, and then we're going to get into our boom. So, Mitch, what do we else got for us?
All right, so to start off, the Hef, as you probably could guess, is a Hefeweizen ale. And for those of you who don't know, a Hefeweizen ale is a typically German, which makes sense, coming from Little Bavaria over there in Michigan. It is the word Hefeweizen is German for white beer, and it kind of translates to like yeast wheat. So it's like a very wheaty beer. It's made with at least 50% wheat, and it's usually a little stronger. It's not like an IPA kind of like bite to it, but some like for a lot of people who are used to like light beers or lagers, like it's much different. It has a much different kind of flavor. Is there any flavors, or what are you guys liking about the Hef?
I like that it's light and it's crisp, but it also has flavor. Yeah. Which is, I think, what a Hefeweizen is. Yeah. A Hefeweizen is. It's got almost like a chocolatey or like a caramelness to it that I'm sure isn't right, because we're working on my whiskey palate tasting. We're gonna throw a beer at me, and so I'm not really sure what I'm tasting, but it's definitely. There's definitely like a almost desserty flavor.
I get a little caramel something in there.
Like a little dessertiness to it.
Yeah, I get a lot of that, and this is off of their webpage, their brewery webpage, and I guess is the flavor that a lot of Hefeweizens have, and what they're going for is a little bit of banana.
Oh.
That's what they say, at least. Okay. I don't know if I get the banana.
Sure.
I can see it.
I can buy into that.
I can get into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's supposed to be like a little bit of banana with like a lot of like spices, almost like a clove type of flavor to it. I don't get as much of the spice as what they're talking about. It's very subtle. But I'm a big fan of Hefeweizens. One of the most popular beers in Oregon is a Hefeweizen. Okay. And so I've been drinking Hefeweizens a lot, and I like this quite a bit as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to chalk the dessert up as a win because banana could be in a dessert.
Banana Foster.
Yeah, and that has caramel in it, right?
It also has alcohol in it.
Look at that. Look at that.
Our favorite things.
All of our favorite things. Booze, basketball, and bananas.
All right. Yeah, so the Hef. Happy to have it on the podcast. It's our first Hefeweizen, and it's our first beer in a little bit. A few episodes since we've had a beer.
Yeah, I think our last one was the Texas Trash beer.
Oh, God.
That we were drinking. What a name, by the way.
Sells itself with that name.
Yeah, so it has been a minute.
Yeah.
Yes, so happy to have a beer. We're trying to mix it up on the podcast a little bit more. We did post on our social a little while ago of asking you guys what we should drink next, and we're going to sift through those comments and pick a couple of more, which will be fun. We definitely want to have you guys hitting us up on our socials and stuff, and trying to get you guys involved, and hopefully we can have some of these suggestions on our next podcast for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you guys ready to get rocking into our
Studs?
next group?
Yeah, let's do the studs.
We're going to end on a positive note here because we're going to talk about some solid players.
Yeah.
We're going to start with a guy who arguably had one of the more iconic runs in the March Madness tournaments. A newer guy compared to the other guys that we're going to talk about. Also a Big 12 guy because, we all went to a Big 12 school. We like talking Big 12 hoops.
Yeah.
Didn't go to TCU because why would
Sadly.
he go to TCU? Our basketball team is garbage. But he did go to our rival Oklahoma and just had a heck of a career there and just had one of the more just dominant tournament runs that we've seen, bring Oklahoma to the Final Four. And that is one Buddy Hield out of the Bahamas.
So Buddy Hield, in my opinion, IMO, is pretty much just Trae Young before Trae Young. Both went to Oklahoma. It was just like popping threes like crazy. He didn't really care where he was on the floor. He was another one of these guys that was super fun to watch, almost in kind of like a Jimmer way, like we were talking about, where he was jacking up threes, and he was a little bit better at getting to the hole, and he was a little bigger and stuff. But when he was playing at Oklahoma, it felt like he was just like on fire going into that tournament.
It's one of the, he's like a cult kind of player when you can name him, but no one else on the team. Then they get to the Final Four, and it's just him. Still, it's like he's pretty good at basketball. Because he averaged like 30, I think it was 30 plus points a game during the tournament for sure.
Yeah, I mean he was literally like you said, Trae Young before Trae Young because he did everything.
He had to do everything,
and he did it well on a
Yeah.
team that won. I mean, backpacking a team to the Final Four doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't.
Where it's just like you said, like one guy and that's it.
Yeah.
Like no one else on his team, I don't think, even scratched the NBA.
No.
And it was just him and just his ability to just create, his ability to shoot, his ability to pass. Didn't really play defense, but that's fine.
That's not important.
But just hit big shots.
Yeah.
The amount of big shots he hit and like clutch moments. Like Buddy Hield definitely had a tournament to remember for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the page that I'm on, trying to get the stats for Buddy Hield, is going to make me do too much math in my brain. So I'm just going to read to you how many points he got in each game of that NCAA tournament, which is 27, 36, 17, 37, and then in the very last game he had 9, which was when they lost. And
They lost by 40 to Nova, but that's a different story.
yeah, that was one of those games. That's one of those things where it's like he's a great player, but there's only so much that you can do when
Nova has 5 great players. So.
It's hard to play 1-on-5.
Yeah.
And when Nova got, I do remember watching that game, and it was like one of those things. Where,
That was a massacre.
They were massacring, but it was also like, all right, so we're gonna make anyone other than Buddy Hield shoot the ball. And,
Always a good game plan.
and it was one of those things where like Buddy Hield was like pulling up over so many different
Yeah.
players, and like all of his guys were bricking everything. I was like, I honestly felt bad. I was like, dude, I get it, you're trying, but my goodness, you guys are getting killed.
Yeah, dude. All I remember from that tournament is being an Oregon fan. Is Buddy Hield just absolutely torching us,
Yeah.
dude? He had 36 in that game or 37, whatever it was, and he was just absolutely on fire. There's nothing that we could do. And Buddy Hield was one of those guys. He's one of those dudes that, especially in in the NBA, he's proven to be a good 3-point shooter and a good basketball player. But in college, when you're going against lesser talent, and you're on one, there's just nothing that a team can do to stop you. That's at least what it felt like being the Oregon fan watching him go against us.
Yeah, so Buddy Hield has actually had himself quite an NBA career so far. He's 6 seasons in the NBA, 1 with the Pelicans, and then he got traded his rookie year, or after traded his sophomore year.
For Boogie, right?
For Boogie. At the deadline.
And he survived the Kings, which is very important.
And he's doing well on the Kings. We were just hating on the Kings. He's doing well on the Kings, averaging 16 points a game, 2.5 assists, 4 rebounds. But I mean, all you're asking him to do is shoot threes.
Yeah.
He's a 40% 3-point shooter on 7 attempts a game, which is just ridiculous. He had one season where he averaged 20 points per game, which was 2 years ago, which he did really well. This year, down a little bit, 16 points a game, but still shooting on a good clip, 37 from 3 on 10 attempts. He's
Jimmer. So he's Jimmer right now.
He's really trying. I mean, if you think about it, other than De'Aaron Fox, he really doesn't. They don't have anyone else that can really score. So he's definitely played a lot. He's durable. He's played in 80 plus games almost all of his career. He's not always been a starter. He's a starter this year, but he wasn't last year, so he's bounced in and out of the starting lineup. He's a guy that a lot of teams are looking at to trade for this year.
Him and Barnes, yeah.
He's a guy that everyone wants to be freed from Sacramento.
Yes.
Let's be honest. Everyone wants to see him
better.
in a winning situation because Buddy Hield is too good and has such a good story. Yeah. And I mean, growing up in the Bahamas, I remember watching a feature on him where he like learned to shoot on a wooden backboard with like a shopping cart, basket thing as the rim.
Yep.
So like his story is really good. His career is really good. He's got one big contract. He'll have many more, I'm sure, in his career. He's only been in the league for 6 years, so he's got a long way to go. Just a great story and a stud of a player.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when we were going over who should we talk about in the podcast, we referenced Steph Curry because everyone knows about Steph Curry's amazingness with Davidson in March Madness and how that made Steph Curry pop, and that's why he got drafted and all that stuff. But we kind of figured that everyone knew and talks about the Steph Curry story all the time because it's Steph Curry. But we wanted to highlight Buddy Hield because it feels like people don't talk about the Buddy Hield March Madness run as much as what they really should, because he really was popping off in that run, and we wanted to make sure that Buddy Hield gets his due.
Yeah, there you go. So, I'm sure he appreciates that somewhere if he's listening to this right now.
He absolutely is listening.
You're welcome, buddy. So I got a couple of things for you. First off, I love this website, Basketball Reference, great website, but it also gives you their nicknames. So his nicknames, it's got 3 of them: Buddy Love, Buddy Fresh, and Buddy Buckets.
I like Buddy Buckets.
Buddy Buckets. Also,
Buddy Fresh.
Can either of you guess his real first name? It's not Buddy.
I can't even think of anything.
Something with Bud. Robert?
It's Chavano.
That's sick.
Chavano. So his real name is Chavano Rayner. His middle name is Rayner Hield.
That's a golden opportunity.
Imagine if he went. I was about to say, imagine if his real name was like Rayner Hield, and he was just a 3-point specialist.
You know what's crazy is that was my next guess.
Chavano. But dude,
Robert Chavano, it's all the same boat.
What a great opportunity to be Rayner and just throw it down the drain.
Yeah, I would have got my Rayner over anything.
Buddy, come on. I'm upset now.
I like Chavano too. That would have been sick too. Yeah.
He should have run with Rayner though.
I know,
the Rayner man.
Hield.
That's a class. I feel like
Rayner
he'd be more popular.
Sick.
He'd be more popular right now if he went with Rayner as his name.
Good name for
him. Also, like,
he's gonna have to pull that
at least
off
have
too.
a nickname. At least like brand yourself so that's your nickname. You can still go by Buddy, but like you could have your nickname be something Rayner. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's too natural of a fit to not end up with.
What a mess. All right, let's move on to our next guy. Our next boom guy. This guy's a surefire Hall of Famer. Just absolute great NBA player, one of the greats, moving up on the scoring list, first ballot Hall of Famer for sure.
Near and dear to Mitch's heart.
Near and dear to Mitch's heart.
Glue Guy Mello.
Speaking of t-shirts that need to be made.
Sorry, I had to jump in there.
As you just blow out everyone's eardrums.
Sorry. I can't hear anymore, but I assume that was about Mello. I can't.
Mitch over here just screaming. Yes, we are talking about one Carmelo Anthony and the run that he had to take the Syracuse basketball team to the championship and win the NCAA
Jim Boeheim's won championship.
Melo's won championship.
That is true because the Pistons didn't draft him, so
never got a championship in the NBA, but damn it, he has one in the NCAA.
Yeah.
This is when you.
Sorry, is it my
talk to you,
turn?
I don't know,
I was trying to find his stats for the tournament, but for what it's worth, the man averaged 22 points and 10 rebounds over his 35 game career with Syracuse, which is pretty awesome. So Melo was in an era that it's kind of interesting that he went on to go win that championship with Syracuse because he could have left out of high school. He had that option to leave out of high school. And he decided to go to college. He's from New York. He's like, I want to go to Syracuse. Goes and wins that championship. And a lot of people assumed that he was going to be the number 2 pick in the draft that year.
I wish.
I don't know if you remember this draft well or not,
I
Tom.
do. I think about it too often.
This is just bullying. But Tom, please tell us about this draft.
No, I mean he was the number 3 pick. Yeah, because it went LeBron and some random Serbian guy that my Stones drafted, and then Melo and Bosch and Wade, and he was the Stones were the one that had missed there because I think they had just drafted Tayshaun Prince, and they're like, we don't need a small forward, but they did need a small forward. Cause I think they took Darko to match up with like Ben Wallace, and they're like, this isn't gonna work. So they got Sheet eventually, and like it turned out fine, but it just could have been a dynasty instead of the one year. But it hurts a little bit. Yeah, but I think Melo for that year in Syracuse, he gave Boeheim his first championship. He was with Hakeem Warwick, that team, so that they had some guys that then Dre McNamara, who was a good a good player in college, who's still a coach now at Syracuse too. Those are like their big 3 back in the day. They didn't really have they had a decent run of the tournament. They didn't play any like super teams or anything. I think they played Kansas in the final with Roy Williams, his last KU team before he left for UNC. So just a little fun fact about that run there.
Heck yeah, dude. And so Melo obviously is a guy that we all grew up watching. I will say that run that he made was a little before I was really watching college basketball. Like I didn't really watch Melo at Syracuse. I've seen his highlights. I've gone back and I've looked into oh wow, that's really interesting that a lot of people kind of labeled him as a guy that doesn't really care about winning. Throughout the rest of his career. Throughout the rest of his NBA career, it was oh, he's a stat patter, or he cares more about making money. He doesn't really care about winning all that much. But it's hard to say that when he went and actually backpacked a team to a national championship. I mean, I know it's in college. I know doesn't count the same as a NBA championship, but the dude is a winner.
Yeah, he is a winner for sure.
Yeah, he's been on a lot of winning teams. 18-year NBA career, which is just.
And going strong, right, Mitch?
Kind of crazy. And yes, you can scream again.
No, I won't scream this time. I thought about it, but no. For me, being a Blazer fan, I'm catching him at the tail end of his career, and I'm on record saying I didn't like Melo for the majority of his career. I thought he was kind of a prick. I thought he was kind of more after I'd rather get my money than go play for a championship team or whatever. But now seeing him coming back around. He's now coming off the bench for, a lowly small market Portland team, and it's kind of fun to watch a guy like that he's come around and humbled himself, and he's been nothing but a good dude. So I've become a big fan of Carmelo.
There you go.
Yeah, and Melo. I mean, we're just gonna read off his career stats here, just because they're incredible. 23.3 points per game. Let's see, 2.9 assists, which is fine. 6.4 rebounds on 81% from the line. Let's see, 35% from 3 and 45% from the field. Again, he's played in almost or a little over 1,150 career NBA games. Averages 35 minutes per game for his career, which is very high. Led the league in scoring once, led the leagues in minutes before, has taken a lot of teams to the playoffs, obviously most known for his run in Denver and then his run in New York. Had a brief year at OKC, had a turbulent-filled stop in Houston, and then now is happily playing in Portland and playing well as glue guy Melo. But there have been a lot of versions of Melo over the course of his career.
Melo.
You've got Hoodie Melo, you've got Cornrow Melo, you've got Skinny Melo, you've got
Olympic.
Glue Guy Melo, you've got Olympic Melo. Yeah, we haven't even gotten into that. Probably the face of the NBA Olympic or the American Olympic team which is full of NBA players every year. But
I'm not saying that Coach K knew how to use him best, but Coach K knew how to use him best.
Are you saying that he should have gone to Duke?
No, not that. No, it's just like there are so many pro guys that have been like, God, playing with Coach K was so cool. I'm like, yeah, it's real shame he didn't go to Duke.
Yeah, dude, Melo. I mean, there's probably something to be said about Coach K knew how to use him best, and I think there's something to be said about like he is just like was an amazing complimentary guy next to LeBron and next to Wade's and next to like all of these other dudes. Do you know that they're actually he was considering going to Miami instead of Chris Bosh, and it was going to be a Dwayne Wade, LeBron, Melo big
that
three.
Wouldn't have worked as well, I don't think.
I think that would have been kind of fun though.
I mean, it would have been super
it's
fun.
I think it's probably better if it turned out that way.
But Melo could do the same thing that Chris Bosh was doing as far as standing in the corner shooting threes.
That's probably true.
That's what he did. That's what he did with the Olympics.
Yeah, but Melo wanted to do more than that.
Yes.
I think the big thing that like Melo gets hate for is like he never really won in the NBA, but I think he like put all of his like winning energy into the Olympics and into the college. That's where like he really, played the basketball, like winning basketball. Whereas in the NBA, he's playing like everyone has said, like stat patter basketball. And so that's what makes him so fun in Portland is now he's playing like basketball in a way that like is geared towards winning as opposed to doing what's best for him.
Yeah, trying to fit around the team sort of thing.
Well, I think like too, like in his career in Denver, like in New York, he never had like great players around him. I mean, he had Chauncey Billups for 1 year in Denver, and they got to the conference finals, and like the Knicks, like it was kind of him and J.R. Smith, which isn't a great two-man tandem to go far. So
he had a washed-up Amari.
He had a no knees Amari by the end of that.
And we're talking about Amari Stoudemire, now, of course. Let's move on to our last guy here, who probably hit, if not the most iconic, one of the most iconic shots in the history of March Madness.
It wasn't quite March Madness; it was the tournament, but still. Like,
yes, the tournament, but in college, yes.
That's where the step back was born for Kemba.
Yes, Kemba Walker, currently playing for the Boston Celtics, had a long career before that in Charlotte, and had a decorated career at UConn, where he maybe not the tournament, but hit one of the most iconic shots in college basketball.
Yeah, for sure. And then I think just like his run, I mean, he beat Derek Williams, like we had said. He beat Kawhi Leonard in the Sweet 16. He beat Brandon Knight and the Final Four, then beat Brad Stevens in the championship. So he went through just a bunch of big name guys down that and that tournament, and he sort of just cemented himself. I think every year they ask, who's the Kemba gonna be this year? Like who's the guy that carries their team to great heights, and he's just always been the iconic college basketball figure from now on ever since that.
He's the epitome of like backpacking a team. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like for the majority of that season, they were not that good of a team. And
no, they were not.
I'm trying to remember like even what seed they were.
So I like recall before the Big East tournament, they were like a 7-ish seed, but then they like made
in the Big
run.
East tournament.
Yeah, but no. So I think they were like an 8 or 9 seed in the Big East tournament, but they won the 5 games that went along with that, and they went up to a 3 seed because they were in Duke, because it was Duke's region. So it was Duke 1, San Diego State 2, UConn 3, Arizona 4, and then I was like, fuck, it's just a murderer's row of a region back then. But yeah,
dude. The Kemba run is probably one of the most fun runs that's ever happened in March Madness. To go from a team that is more likely than not even going to make the tournament to running through the Big East tournament in Madison Square Garden, like getting your automatic bid.
5 games in 5 days. It's all.
Yep.
That's all I needed.
5 games in 5 days, and then making that run in the tournament and just going undefeated in your conference tournament and then in March Madness and having it all pretty much be on Kemba's back. This undersized guard that is just using these nasty crossovers, these nasty step backs, literally making a guy fall over to make a game winner. I mean, it doesn't get better than Kemba in March Madness.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of times where he would do something and the whole crowd would go, oh, like it was crazy. Like he would just cross people up. And again, he's the smallest guy on the court. Like the best player on the court was the shortest, smallest, most petite guy on the court. He's still the smallest guy on the court every time he steps on the court in the NBA. But he was shifty, he was fast, he was in control. He never played too fast for himself, and he hit big shots. Big shot after big shot. It was just incredible.
No, I think in March for sure. The two things you need are a great point guard and to control the pace. And Kemba was so good at both those things that it helped the run so much for sure. Because I think that team, like we said, like he backpatted that team because they had a young Jeremy Lamb, a young Shabazz Napier, and Alex Oriaki. I don't know if you remember him. Like he was their center who was like sort of big, but I mean they needed Kemba so badly that year. And it was just he carried the team to just great heights.
Yeah, exactly. And so I remember watching every single one of those games.
Yeah.
I think this was back for me, when I was in high school and had a whole bunch of time on my
I was
hands.
in 8th grade. I was in 8th grade for sure.
And so I was watching every single one of these Kemba games, and every single one of them was fascinating. And what I was really impressed with is the fact that he actually made a good NBA career out of it.
Yeah, and going into that NBA career, he's now going on 10 years, still going strong, having a little bit of a regression this year, a down year, but I'm sure he's one that'll bounce back. He's in his 30s now, so we'll see if he can make a little bit of a late surge in his career, averaging 19.8 points per game for his career. His career high was he averaged 25 his last year in Chicago before he got Charlotte, sorry, before he went to Boston. 5.4 assists, 3.8 rebounds on 36 from 3 and 41 from the field. He's played over 680 career NBA games, which is pretty impressive. A guy like that, a small guy, he went 9th in the draft that year, which is...
He's also a guy that the Pistons should have drafted, but so the Pistons had the 8th pick and took Brandon Knight, and I was like, Kemba's right there. What are you doing? He beat him in the Final Four. What are we doing here? But I digress.
A lot of Piston draft talk in this pod.
Sad Piston talk. Yeah, with Darko and Melo, and just...
But
pain.
yes, a guy that got drafted by, again, a horrible team, the Bobcats, and just kind of made a career for himself. He's been a multiple-time All-Star and just played really well. And so excited to see what he does for the rest of his career. But yeah, he's the last of our boom guys that, again, did well in the tournament and had pretty good NBA careers. We have a Hall of Famer, a young guy who's we're excited to see where his career goes before he hits his prime, and a guy on the back half of his prime where we're ready to see how he does in the twilight of his career.
Yeah, exactly. Very excited to see what Kemba is going to be up to. Almost a little bit of a down year this year with the Celtics, but has proven himself to be a very good NBA player. You don't become an NBA All-Star on accident, especially when you're an undersized guy like Kemba. It's just to me, it feels like he's been outperforming his weight class his entire life. And I love watching Kemba. But this was a fun podcast, you guys, going over all of the March Madness stuff right as we're leading into March Madness this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone get your brackets done. Maybe we'll do a Team Morale podcast fans bracket or something like that. Maybe we'll see if we can set that up, which will be fun. See if anyone joins. You guys should join. It'll be fun.
Ooh, I could be about that, but I'm warning you right now, Grand Canyon is going to win the championship. Go Lopes.
Go Blue.
Mitch has been loud this podcast, guys. All right. Well, that is our podcast about March Madness and our booms and busts, guys. Thank you, Tom, for joining us as always.
Of course.
College basketball guru here. Shout out to the Hef and their adorable mascot joining us today, and Frankenmuth, which is a cool town if you ever go to visit. I've never been there, but I'm sure it's fun. But yeah, cheers, guys. Another podcast down.
Cheers.